I'm going to tell you a fairy tale this afternoon, and as my old German grandmother would have said, you have 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. Well, in case you haven't guessed, I'm going to tell you the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, a beautiful young girl lived with her mother on the edge of the forest. And her grandmother had made her a cape that she liked very, very much and wore all the time. And so people called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Red Riding Hood's mother was making some cookies and some scones and said, "You know what, your grandmother is not feeling very well today, so I would like you to take her a basket of cookies to her house." And Red Riding Hood said, "Of course, I'd love to do that. I'd love to help out my grandmother." So, Little Red Riding Hood took a basket over her arm, put on her favorite cloak, and headed off into the woods. She hadn't walked very far when she met up with a very polite but very large wolf. Red Riding Hood had been told not to talk to strangers, but the wolf was so charming, he said, "Hello, what are you doing today?" She said, "Oh, I'm walking through the forest to my grandmother's house. She's not feeling well, so I'm going to give her some cookies." "How charming," said the wolf. "Well, where exactly does your grandmother live?" And Red Riding Hood said, "Well, she's just kind of through the rest of the woods, down to the other side, down by the river." So the wolf said, "Well, maybe I could walk with you." Red Riding Hood said, No, that's okay. I'd rather go by myself." So she headed off again. Unbeknownst to her, the wolf took off and quickly went through the forest and got to the grandmother's house. When he got to the grandmother's house, he knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. "Hello." "Hello? Hello?" The grandmother said. "Yes, who is it?" "It's just me, your granddaughter, Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some cookies." "Oh, well, sweetie, the door's unlocked. Please come in." So the wolf came through the doorway, and the grandmother, who was in bed, was shocked, and the wolf jumped on her and ate her right up. So meanwhile, Red Riding Hood is coming through the woods with her basket, enjoying the flowers and the springtime. She gets to the house, she comes in, and something looks a little odd. She goes over to talk to her grandmother, and she says, "Why, Granny, what big eyes you have." And the wolf, dressed up in Granny's nightgown, peered over the covers of the bed and said, "The better to see you with, my dear." Red Riding Hood thought about this a little. "Oh, Granny, what big ears you have." And the wolf said, "Why, the better to hear you with, my dear." Red Riding Hood was getting a little bit alarmed. She said, "Why, Granny, what big teeth you have." "The better to eat you with," said the wolf. And he ate her right up. Now, just before he ate her right up, she made a huge scream, and a woodcutter who happened to be passing by the house saw the door was ajar and thought something was amiss, so he came in and found the huge wolf. He immediately took his axe, chopped the wolf down, slit the wolf open, and was able to pull out Red Riding Hood and her grandmother. They were so grateful that they invited the woodcutter to stay and have cookies and scones with them, which he did. They had a lovely time, and that was the end of the wolf. Now, think to yourself, children, what is the moral of this story? Is it always carry an axe, you may need it? Is it don't be quite so obvious looking, wearing a red cloak through the woods? Or is it maybe you shouldn't talk to strangers?